Hey guys, welcome back. I know. I'm late again, and I'm sorry about that. I'm really trying to get my routine back as a routine. I swear I'm going to be good when school starts. I'm going to have this all lined out perfectly. But here I am, juggling everything alone. But it is what it is. But let me just say, life has been royally kicking my ass. What is today? Today is Saturday, July 26th. And yeah, today started absolutely terrible. And it didn't really get better until the evening. But over the past week, I've had, sleepovers nonstop. And let me tell you what, I don't know if it's because these girls tried to stay up for 24 hours or what, but they convinced themselves that there was a poltergeist in my house. Yeah. A poltergeist. First of all, I would know. I mean, at least I think I would know. But a poltergeist in my house? I'm sorry, what? Mind you, I have two cats, Lyra and Gandalf. Lyra is just beautiful and lazy and lovey-dovey. Gandalf, on the other hand, I mean, he's my lover boy, but if he gets mad or stressed out, he is gonna mess some stuff up, like, he's gonna take full revenge. So here's the deal. My kids now call my stove the haunted stove. Why? Because they swear this thing turns on by itself. I mean, they will come busting in my room or wherever I am here, blowing up my phone at work and be like, the stove is on, the stove is on. And I'm not joking when I say this thing is on and it's on high, but it's one of those ones they have to obviously push in and turn. So I'm like, Gandalf, are you going over there messing with it? Because you're mad at me, or you're mad at them, or you're stressed out, whatever's going on. Anyway, so I'm trying to convince the kids that there's not a poltergeist, they're not going to die, there's not a demon. So I set up this camera, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up a camera because they're convinced that this happened like 6 times, that the stove just magically turned on. Yeah, okay. Anyways, I set up a camera and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to catch some stuff on this camera, or I'm not. And let me tell you, I did not. Recorded it for an hour, not one thing happened. But sure enough, if I walk in the room or do something or do that, Mom, the stove's on, it's haunted. Baby, we do not have a poltergeist. Anyways, that's my life. So, other than Hell Week, slumber parties, poltergeist, lots of work, and this podcast. Yeah, there's a lot going on. They still don't believe me about the poltergeist, by the way. It's been like 3 days of us talking about this. Whatever, though. I think what they're doing is they're watching too many ghost shows, ghost adventures and all that. That's what they're doing. It has to be that. Because these girls have a wild imagination. I mean, I'm here for it, but I do not have a poltergeist. No. Anyways, I'm so sorry that I'm late yet again. Please forgive me. I will get better. I promise. Just bear with me. It's March 1997. You're sipping a Diet Pepsi, flipping channels, and maybe watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when suddenly, silence, order, obedience in matching form, black tracksuits, Nike decades, shaved heads, lying peacefully in bunk beds, with deep violet shrouds laid across their faces, a cult-colored curtain call, 39 people, cloaked in loyalty, dressed for departure. Not a drop of blood, no struggle, no visible wounds. And no, this wasn't a setup for an X-Files episode. It was real. They called themselves Heaven's Gate. They believed the Earth was about to be recycled, and the only way out was up. Behind the Hale-Bopp Comet, they said a spacecraft was waiting, not to abduct them, to welcome them. But to board? You had to exit your body. Yeah, shaved heads, vodka, and applesauce laced with barbiturates, a mansion full of bunk beds, plastic bags, farewell videos, and comic instructions. And the shoes? Nike Decades, black with a white swoosh, bought in bulk, because apparently, even cults need group discounts. You've got to respect the coordination, but still, one less hairdresser in Rancho Santa Fe that week. This is Heaven's Gate. Let's go. Welcome back to Glow in the Dark, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on cults, killers, and the kind of stories that don't end where you think they will. Today's descent? Heaven's Gate, one of the most infamous UFO cults in history, a group that believed that the human body was just a vehicle and that death was the key to upgrade it. They weren't trying to escape life. They were trying to graduate from it. So let's peel back the shroud and find out what happens when belief becomes a boarding pass. It began with two people, Bonnie Nettles and Marshall Applewhite. She was a nurse, he was a music teacher. He taught at the University of St. Thomas in Houston from 1965 to 1970, before resigning under unclear circumstances, likely related to a relationship with a male student. By 1972, Applewhite was deeply closeted and emotionally unraveling. That's when he met Bonnie in a psychiatric hospital where he'd been admitted for emotional instability. Okay, red flag alert, because if the guy who's telling you that he's the new messiah is literally your patient in the psych ward, maybe don't start a new religion with him? Yeah? Sound like a good idea? Well, you know what? It is a good idea, Bonnie, but you did it, and here we are, doing this episode. Take notes, everyone. Don't listen to Bonnie. Anyways, let's continue. But Bonnie saw something in him, and he saw prophecy in her. She told her family that she had visions of meeting someone special, someone who'd help her fill a divine mission. And when she met Applewhite, she believed her vision came true. Bonnie wasn't just a nurse. She dabbled in astrology, held seances, and believed that she was in contact with spirits. In Applewhite, she saw divine purpose, not delusion. Together, they rebranded themselves as Ty and Doe, like musical notes. They believed that they were alien beings in human form, sent to the earth to gather a select group of souls and lead them to the next level. And the mission came with rules. They gave up their identities, gave up their families, even gave up sex. They said that human attachments were like addictions that kept the soul earthbound. They preached detachment from earth and total devotion to the next level. They lived in tents for months at a time. Sometimes, strangers even let them crash in their yards or garages. And before the mansion, that was their life, a life of rejection, fasting, isolation, and rehearsals for departure. They founded a group called Human Individual Metamorphosis, or HIMP. And no, I'm not talking about the band. They started spreading their doctrine across the U.S. They called their text the 88 Update, part manifesto, part apocalyptic mixtape. According to them, the body was a container, and Earth was the garden, and they were here to harvest the ripe souls. Translation? You're just a meat car. They're aliens with the Uber. Oh my God, that sounds so weird to say. Meat car. Ugh. Fucking aliens with an Uber. Ugh. I cannot. But here's the twist. In the beginning, death wasn't required. At first, Ty and Doe taught that followers would be physically taken up in a spacecraft, alive, beam me up style, No dying, no suicide, just galactic graduation. To them, it wasn't a fantasy. It was salvation without suffering, an escape without pain, a promise that devotion would be rewarded without ever touching death. And that's the hook with high-demand groups. They don't ask for blood on day one. They offer comfort, structure, a sense of meaning in a chaotic world. And for people already drifting, that's magnetic. But when they were rejected by New Age media conferences, ignored by the media, and watched their group shrink, they changed the rules. The doctrine evolved into something darker. But what happens when your partner in prophecy dies and you're still here? In 1985, their cosmic balance cracked. Bonnie Nettles was diagnosed with liver cancer, and instead of ascending like she promised, she died. She was cremated. Her ashes were scattered like every other mortal. The doctrine had failed, but Applewhite couldn't let the mission unravel, so he rewrote the story. He told followers that Bonnie had transcended early, that her container had worn out, and her consciousness was now aboard a spacecraft waiting above her. That's not faith. That's indoctrin. That's seeing someone lose their body to cancer and calling it a promotion. And, okay, we all know these people had real lives. They'd seen grandparents die, pets die. They knew what death was. But in a closed system like this, death isn't the end. It's a plot twist, a test of faith. And grief? That's just another opportunity to double down. So, how do you go from grief to blind devotion? You don't. Not overnight. Not unless your grief is hijacked. Your questions replaced with euphemisms like graduation, exit, and next level. That's not belief. That's psychological coercion. Applewhite had to keep the illusion going, because once the spaceship theory collapsed, so did the group. So, he reframed Bonnie's death not as a failure, but as sacred proof. Proof that the mission was real, that he was next, and that they would all join her soon. After Bonnie's death, Applewhite became the lone voice of the next level. He enforced absolute obedience. Followers shaved their heads, wore matching black tracksuits, ate identical meals, and slept in barricades. They weren't just followers. They were reflections, clones of control. The group lived nomadically for over 15 years, sometimes in tents, sometimes staying with friends of friends, constantly moving, always watching the skies, waiting for a sign. They worked temporary earth jobs to survive. And yes, I said earth jobs, because that's what they called it. But I'm seriously going to start calling my job an earth job and just see how long it takes before someone snaps. I'm going to text my friend and be like, Jerry, are you going to your earth job today? He's going to fucking kill me. Sorry, buddy. But seriously, when I first heard the whole earth jobs thing, I was like, what? But then I was like, wait a minute. How did these guys even have jobs if they had to give up their life, their identity, and all that? That means your social, your ID, your birth certificates, all that stuff that makes you you, that you need to get a job. So what the hell? How'd you even get these earth jobs? Well, not everyone gave it all up. Some retained just enough paperwork to stay afloat. A few had early backgrounds in tech, which later became crucial when they founded an actual web development company called HireSource. They built real websites, charged real clients, and filed real invoices. Yeah, the group that didn't believe in Earth believed in HTML. Make that make sense. And while most people were preparing for Y2K or collecting Beanie Babies, Heaven's Gate was building digital portals to the stars. By the mid-90s, their isolation deepened. They stopped taking in new members, they kept to themselves, and Applewhite's control turned messianic. He began to say that the human body was impure, a vehicle that needed to be shed. Even sexuality became a sin. Several male members, including Applewhite himself, underwent surgical castration, believing that purity required total and physical detachment. Yeah, they literally cut it off to prove devotion. After years of sleeping on floors and crashing in garages, the group finally settled into a rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, a $7,000 a month property tucked behind iron gates and Mediterranean-style arches. To the outside world, it looked like a quiet spiritual retreat. $7,000 a month mansion. I just can't get over that. These guys and their little earth jobs. Like what? $7,000? You were basically nomads, living in the wilderness, and now you had a mansion. It's like, welcome to your Mediterranean-style apocalyptic retreat. Features include blackout blinds, 24/7 surveillance, and 39 matching haircuts. Perfect for the tech-savvy death cult on a mid-range budget, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And when the landlord asked what they did for a living, Applewhite told him, "We're Christian web developers." Which I guess is technically true if your version of Christian includes castration and catching a ride on the Hale-Bopp Comet. Now imagine opening your front door and seeing a lineup of 39 men and women, identical, matching outfits, matching hair, the whole shazam. And they're just like, oh, we're just building websites for the next dimension. No, that's not religion. That's world's darkest startup. But if you went inside the mansion, it was vastly different from the outside. The blinds stayed shut, the windows were blacked out, every inch was monitored. Their entire lives rehearsed, recorded, and controlled. This wasn't just a belief system anymore. This was full-blown psychological conversion. And they were ready, because by then, they didn't need fear to stay. They needed purpose, and he gave them one, in the shape of a comet, because in 1997, the sign finally came. In March of 1997, the Hale-Bopp Comet made its closest approach to Earth. And for heaven's gate, it wasn't just a comet, it was a cosmic Uber. Applewhite told his followers, "This is it. The spacecraft is in its tail. It's time to exit our vehicles." And the countdown began. They filmed farewell messages, each one more unsettling than the last. Smiling, calm, radiating peace. Some wrote final letters. "We are all choosing of our own free will to go to the next level. This is the happiest day of my life." Not one begged to stay. They didn't sound afraid. They sounded ready. This isn't suicide. It's graduation. We're excited. Over 3 days, they died in shifts, groups of 15 helping each other prepare, each round supporting the next. They consumed phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and vodka. They placed plastic bags over their heads and laid down in their bunk beds, face up with their arms at their sides. They wore their black Nike decades, matching black tracksuits, with deep violet shrouds laid across their faces. A cult-colored curtain call. The purple fabric wasn't random. It symbolized royalty, transformation, and ascension. But it also served as a darker function, to hide the face, to veil death. The result? 39 dead, 18 women, 21 men, ages 26 to 72. No wounds, no struggle, no second thoughts. Just ritualized belief and silence. And can we talk about the branding? Black Nikes, coordinated tracksuits, shrouds? You've got to respect the commitment to the aesthetic. But still, I've seen less coordination at bridal parties. But how did the world find out? Well, because they wanted us to. Former member named Rio D'Angelo, real name Richard Ford, received a goodbye package in the mail. It was postmarked March 25th, 1997. Inside, VHS farewell videos, a final manifesto, a map, and keys to the mansion. He had left the group just weeks before, but unlike most ex-members, he didn't leave bittersweet or disillusioned. He still believed, and that made him perfect. Applewhite didn't choose him randomly. He trusted him, because even outside the gates, Rio still spoke their language. Even in exile, he was loyal. And maybe, just maybe, that's why he still maintains the website today. Or at least, I think it's him maintaining the website. Yes, The original Heaven's Gate website is still online, frozen in time, with a contact email and a cursor waiting. It's hosted by Tierra Net, a San Diego-based company. So yeah, the gateway to cosmic rebirth, still parked on a server in California. So, either someone is still paying the hosting fees from far beyond the grave, or Rio's quietly keeping the gates open. And if that homepage ever updates, just unplug your router. You've gone too far. Rio didn't call 911 right away. First, he called his boss. Then he drove to a payphone. And finally, he made the call. 911 operator? This is regarding what? Rio. This is regarding a mass suicide. I can give you the address. He gave the address to the mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, and within hours, law enforcement arrived to a scene that felt staged. Too clean, too calm. And what they found? A strong chemical odor, rows of bodies in uniform bunk beds, black Nike decades, black tracksuits, deep violet shrouds draped over their upper bodies and faces, neatly packed personal bags beside each bed. No blood, no mess, no resistance. The coroner's report revealed the method. Each person consumed phenobarbital, a barbiturate mixed with applesauce and chased with vodka. Then, plastic bags were tied over their heads. And yet, there were no signs of a struggle, no bruising, no defensive marks, just full body rigor mortis in the earliest group, and perfectly staged death in the rest. Autopsies confirmed high barbiturate levels in all victims, alcohol content consistent with the ritual, asphyxiation from plastic bags, no evidence of force, no trauma, surgical scars on several men from voluntary castration. Several bodies bore surgical scars, signs of the group's most extreme form of devotion. Not all sacrifices bled. Some were quiet, internal. They didn't just die for their beliefs, they tailored their flesh to match them. After the bodies were discovered, the cleanup and the investigation became one of the largest in San Diego County's history. Each victim was photographed, bagged, tagged, and cataloged, not as cult members, but as unidentified citizens. Some families came forward immediately. Others never did. Most of the bodies were cremated. Some were claimed by relatives. Others were left unclaimed, no one wanting to be tied to the story. No funerals, no markers, just ashes, just silence. There's no official gravesite, no public memorial, no shrine. Only that rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, which was bulldozed not long after. The house had been leased under an alias, $7,000 a month, paid in full. The listed purpose? Creative meditation. What they created was an apocalypse in perfect order. No smoke, no blood, no chaos, just silence, folded with precision, and zipped into a body bag. You don't wake up one day and join a death cult. You're molded, trained, unraveled, and rewired. And the rewiring is subtle. And when the doubt creeps in, cults use something called thought stopping, a kind of mental override. You're trained to silence your fear with mantras, to push away logic with doctrine, until your own instincts feel like betrayal. Heaven's Gate wasn't just about aliens. It was about control, changing names, severing ties to family, suppressing sexuality, practicing uniformity, replacing grief with doctrine, rewriting deaths as ascension. Applewhite took emotionally fragile people, many whom were already spiritually hungry, lost or estranged, and gave them a purpose. But here's the truth that rattles people the most. They weren't all broken. Some had families, careers, degrees, a house, a car, a 401k. And here's the thing. Cults don't prey on stupidity. They prey on timing. You never know what someone's going through. One grief, one loss, one moment of doubt. And the right words can become a lifeline. That's not weakness. That's being human. And you never know what someone's truly going through. Not really. A loss, a heartbreak, a mental spiral in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, and then someone offers you a meaning, and the right words at the wrong time can sound like salvation. That's the part we don't like to admit, that belief is fragile, that we might have believed it too, if we'd met the right voice at the right moment. Cults don't succeed by screaming insanity. They succeed by sounding gentle. They offer healing. They use therapy language. They reward compliance with praise. And they slowly shift your baseline of normal. First they isolate. Then they control. Then they demand sacrifice of identity, anatomy, family, and finally, your life. And by the time your final sacrifice comes, you don't call it suicide. You call it graduation. The media had a field day. Jokes about Nikes, late-night riffs about applesauce and aliens. Nike got free publicity. But behind the satire, 39 people died for an idea. Some were parents. Some were software developers. Some were nurses, artists, former teachers. A few had backgrounds in tech and engineering. One had even worked with NASA. These weren't naive dreamers. They were intelligent people who wanted something to believe in. Some were just lonely. They weren't idiots. They weren't weak. They were human. They were people who wanted to believe something mattered, even if that meant exiting Earth to find it. And their legacy? Still loading, still online, still waiting. Because when you're desperate enough for salvation, even an outdated homepage can feel like a lifeline. And yes, people still email it, still ask to join, and still wonder if the next ship is coming. Because for some, the search for meaning never ends. And just remember, you don't have to grow up in a UFO bunker to fall for a promise. All it takes is the right voice, the right grief, and the right lie. Heaven's Gate didn't offer safety. They offered meaning, not escape, ascent. They told their followers that Earth was not home, that the body was a trap, that love was a test, that death was the door. And for some people, that's not a horror story. That's hope. They didn't escape Earth. They escaped being human. And the price was everything that made them real. The comet kept moving, but the veil they pulled across their faces never lifted. Some people search for light their whole lives, and when they finally mistake it for a comet, they follow it into the dark. Okay, so I have to know, have you ever seen the Heaven's Gate tapes? Like the actual recruitment videos that Marshall Applewhite made? If you haven't, I dare you to watch them late at night with the lights off. That stare, that voice, it's pure nightmare fuel. The dude's a creep, like 10 out of 10. But what do you think? Were they brainwashed? Or did they really believe they were leveling up to the next life? Would you have spotted the red flags? Or would the culty calm voice have freaked you out too? Because I didn't like it. I didn't buy it. Can't get me, buddy. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments or message me because I need to know what you think about this one. I'm nosy. We talked about this. I need to know. And hey, before you go, don't forget to like, share, follow, and who knows, maybe even scream into the void and leave a review. It helps way more than you know, especially when you're building something weird and wonderful from scratch. And yes, I know, we talked about it. This one came out way later than I expected, way later than I hoped. But I will get better at this, and thank you for sticking with me while I figure it out. Until next time, stay safe, stay strange, and stay radiant, even in the dark.